MUKESA chair. I'm Mr. Mark Richard Wahogo, so that I can be able to start the session, to start us off. So, Mark.
Yes. Thank you, Eugene, for the introduction. Maybe we can start by confirming if you can get me clearly. Richard Pasito, can you get me clearly? Thank you. So my name is
Yes, we
Richard.
can get you, sir, very
Yes,
clearly.
thank you. My name is Mark Richard Wahogo. I am a fourth-year student at Multimedia University of Kenya, pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Electrical and Telecommunication Engineering. I also double as the chairperson for Multimedia University of Kenya Engineering Student Association, that is MUKESA. So MUKESA is the engineering association at Multimedia, which is focused now to connecting students to the industry. We also organize sessions such as this for mentorship and also to get insights from the industry experts. We also conduct innovative sessions such as the upcoming Innovation Week, which will take place from date 24 of March, whereby we'll have a student present different projects that they have been working on, alongside informative sessions and panel discussions. All this to make sure that now when you get out there, you are well equipped and well informed of what to expect. So today we are going to have now this webinar on networking and data communication. And our guest today is Martin Indeche. Martin will allow me to introduce him just a little bit. So Martin is a multifaceted guy, of which he works at Safaricom, whereby he is the multi-protocol broadband network engineer at Nokia. He holds a Masters of Science in Computer Science from University of Shanghai for Science and Technology, and also has a deep understanding of network technologies, protocols, and also has hands-on experience in network design and deployment for multiple internet service providers, which include Safaricom, Airtel, and Somtel. He also has knowledge of cloud computing and its applications, and also network security and automation. Another good fact of him is that he is also a mentor. We have been in communication with him, and he has been mentoring me. And I saw better if we have now this session together with the MUKESA members and other members who are interested, so that we can share, and or else he can share what we have been talking about, and also mentor you on now what this field of network engineering entails, uh, what you should focus on when you are in campus, and maybe how you can prepare yourself to get to the industry. So at this juncture, I hope, Martin, you are ready, right? Yes. Welcome. So you can take over from there. To the audience, we'll have the questions session towards the end of the webinar. Welcome, Martin.
Okay, thank you, Richard, and it's my honor to be part of this. I think you've already done my introduction, and I don't think I need to turn on my camera, or maybe you can advise on that. But
Uh,
yes,
we should turn on so that we see you.
okay, no problem. I will turn it on and then off. I don't know whether you're able to see
Okay.
my. Yes, I hope you're able to.
Yes, we can be able to see you now.
Thank Thank you. Okay, that is Martin Indeche. I think you've done the introduction already. So I will just turn off my camera and then we can start our session. With me here, I have some friends who have also joined the session. I'll just give them some 1 minute each to introduce themselves so that you know whom they are, and then we can start our session. Some of them are engineers at Huawei, some of them are doctors, so yeah, they are part of this. So we can start with Amos. Just 1 minute. Say hi to the team, and then we.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm very humbled. My name is Amos Oma Indeche as well. I'm a nurse by profession. It's a pleasure to join you and eager to learn from you in the field of technology.
Thank you for joining. We have Ida.
Yes.
Hi,
We can't hear you clearly, Ida.
oh, you cannot hear me. Okay. Hi, can you hear me now?
Not yet.
Okay, let me try to fix my sound and then maybe I can introduce myself later.
Okay, that's fine. We have James Majani from Huawei.
Hi everyone, I'm James Majani, a network engineer at Huawei, and it's pleasure to join this session, and I'm looking forward to more lively, more interactive session.
Thank you, James. Anyone else whom I'm forgetting? There were some other few who had to join. Anyone whom I'm forgetting from the... Okay, maybe they will join later, but I just invited them so that they can also be part of this, and they can also, especially when you start asking questions, they can contribute, they can share their different perspectives on different things in this field of networking. So allow me to share my screen. We will have some few slides to look at, and then we can have the question and answer session. I have some few slides here. And today we are just doing some introduction to network engineering and data communication. This is a very interesting field. I can confirm that because I've been working in this field for some good years. I've been at Huawei as a network engineer for about 2 years, and then I joined Innovis also as a network engineer, a HLS transmission engineer for 2 years. And then last few months I joined Nokia, also more of still a network engineer. So if I've been there for this long, it means it's a very interesting field. And yeah, if you're interested in pursuing this path, it's a good option. You should continue doing that. And yeah, you will have to experience a lot in the field. So just some open discussions so that we get to, I know majority of us are telecommunication students, and as students definitely you exposed to a lot of knowledge out there, and we need to try to bridge the gap between the knowledge that you have from the university and the one that we have in the real networking world. So we just need to do some open discussions to try to understand what you know about networking. So the first question that we need to answer is, how do you access the internet? Anyone can unmute and respond to the question. How do you normally access the internet? Anyone from the audience can open their microphones and let's make this interactive. I know we are always on TikTok, we are always on YouTube, we are always on Twitter. Anyone from the audience? Guys, let's interact. Let's. Yes, Aqua.
A device to a network that provides internet access.
How do you normally connect to the internet? That's my question. Anyone else? Yes, Richard.
I can say we connect to the internet through the Wi-Fi, the mobile data, and yeah, such connections.
Yeah, that's right. Many times we are connecting to the internet through the Wi-Fi and the mobile data. Those are, of course, the main means in which we connect to the internet. But again, how do you access? Yes, you connect, but how are you able to access the internet? So that we try to understand how are you able to access TikTok? How are you able to access Facebook or YouTube from that Wi-Fi connection or from that mobile data? How do you feel like you are able to access YouTube or TikTok after connecting to that Wi-Fi or that mobile data? I know many times we don't care, of course, provided you are connected, you can play the YouTube video or you can play the music, you can maybe live stream on TikTok or send that text message to a friend, then you are okay. But yeah, how do you feel there is the packet flow or the data flow from your end to TikTok or from TikTok to your mobile device or your laptop? I'm asking these questions because, okay, I know we are all telecommunication, either students or engineers, so it's just about trying to understand how things work. Anyone?
Yes, we have Victor, whose hand was up.
Okay, Victor, you can proceed. Is anyone able to hear Victor? Anyone else who can give it a try? Maybe a lady. We have Stella, we have who? Teresa, who else? Mercy, Monica, Esther. Okay, we can move to the next question. Which services do you access on the internet? Which services do you access on the internet? I know this one is easy. Anyone can answer. Which services do you access on the internet? Yes, Amos.
If I may try to answer the previous question you have asked,
Yes.
though I'm not a professional in this field, I'm only expert in medical area.
It's okay.
So first of all, I think you have to get an application, maybe for like YouTube. You have to download first from either Play Store or App Gallery, or rather Microsoft in the laptop.
Yes.
Then you have to install and then register. I think then you have to start using it. Registration involves using of password and also entering your username. I think to make it a little bit protected, so that not everybody can be able to access.
Yes, so there is a security aspect when you're accessing the internet. That is great. Clinton,
Yes.
Clinton, I now start calling names. I know Clinton. Which services do you access on the internet? Emmanuel? Yes, Richard.
Okay, I think
Yes, Emmanuel, you can proceed, Emmanuel, and then Richard is raising his hand, so he will be the next one.
the services that we can access to the internet as like the social media platforms, the various social media platforms that are available,
Which are those social media platforms?
such as Facebook, uh, the emails, I think Instagram. Those.
Okay, Mercy Munyinyi. Which services do you access on internet? Amos, you can mute. Yes, Kiza. Yes, Richard, you can proceed.
Yes. There are various services we access through the internet. For example, educational services we do through e-learning. We can also access the banking system such as the PayPal through online. We can also access. We can also be able to be entertained through internet. For example, you go to YouTube, you can watch videos, you can listen to music. Then also we can do online meetings. So yes.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else who wants to share their... Yes, Sakwa.
I think we can access services like web browsing, mailing, or streaming, cloud storage, online banking.
Yes, all those are services that we access on the internet. Thank you. Another question is, do you experience any challenges while accessing the internet? What are some of the challenges you experience while accessing the internet? Do you have any problems you encounter when you are trying to access the internet? Let's try to be quick in response so that we can move to the next slides and try to understand these things. Do you experience any challenges while accessing the internet? Anyone who can respond? I just need to respond this. I will call names. Monica, Salome. Do you experience any challenges while accessing the internet? Or you can be assisted by Mercy. Yes, Monica.
Yes, like slow internet, unstable connections, limited access to limited access and digital division. Mm,
Okay.
okay.
Stella, what are some of the challenges you face when accessing the internet?
At times there is slowness in internet speed. It could be slow.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, we normally make calls. We are always making calls. You are calling your classmate. You are always calling your family, your friends. I just want someone to briefly explain how the mobile call works. I know this is something you've made calls even today, but as an aspiring network engineer, do you really take some time to understand how these things work? Or once you've called, that is it. You don't care about the details of how it works. So anyone who can respond to this? How mobile call works? We've all made calls today. Yes, Sakwa.
Okay, I'll just try. I'm not sure about this, but I think from the okay, let me say I'm the one initiating. Then there is a receiver. So when I initiate the call, it goes through the mobile operator. Let's say Safaricom. Then they will check the channel for the one I'm calling. That's the receiver, to see if the line is free or in another call or it's out of service. Then they will connect me.
Anyone else to respond to that? The last response? Yes, Richard.
Okay, let me also try. So I think when you make a call, your phone now sends a signal to the nearest cell tower, or else the one called the base station, that is now using the radio waves. And now the cell tower connects to the mobile network infrastructure, maybe in this case, let's say Safaricom, which routes the call to the recipient's network.
Okay, thank you. The last question for our discussion will be, do you experience any challenges when making calls? What are some of the challenges you encounter when you are making calls? Only two responders. Anyone who can respond to that? Yes, Lewis.
So for me, I would say network traffic.
Network traffic, as in how does it, or which challenge does it cause for you?
Sometimes the network traffic causes slow down connections, or it makes her to place a call.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? The last person to respond, and then we can move to. I need someone else, someone who hasn't. Let me see. Okay, Richard or Lewis, you can proceed.
Okay. When you make a call, also we can face a problem of poor network coverage, which may result into the recipient or the not listening or not hearing the person is conversing with very well.
Okay, thank you. Lewis, you can take it up.
Okay, another challenge can be dialing the incorrect number.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking this question is because these are the issues we deal with daily as network engineers, and these are the issues we troubleshoot in the network. These are the issues we get calls every now and then. You are told someone is not able to make a call. You are told there is a call drop. You are told someone is not able to access the internet, or maybe has slow connection. You are told he's not able to access a specific application, maybe Facebook, or maybe you are watching DSTV. You remember sometime there was the C cable, the subsea cable that were having issues. You are not able to live stream things like DSTV. And these are the things, or these are the problems that we deal with every day as network engineers. And that's why I wanted to try and get your inputs so that we know where we are. So I will go straight to the next slide. The next slide tries to answer many of these questions. I will put in the presentation mode. So for the service provider networks, many times what we get to see are these towers. I know we see these towers everywhere. Is that true? When you are walking on the road, in your residence, even in the school, you see the towers everywhere with antennas on top and some cables running down there to some equipment room. So this is what we get to see from outside. The towers, we see their businesses. For example, this one could be a bank that is connected to, this is HQ connecting to a service provider network. They have branches in some locations, and we need to be able to make some transaction all the way from the branches to the business HQ. And of course, we can't do a direct fiber connection all the way from, for example, if the main business is in Nairobi and you have a branch in Kisumu, you may not have the capacity to run a fiber cable from Nairobi to Kisumu as a business. So you need to be connected to some service provider networks. At home, we also have the Wi-Fi APs, the small router that we have in our homes that we connect to the Wi-Fi, and then we are able to access everything on the internet. But before we access the internet, we are always going through the service provider network, and then we are able to access the network resources. So you have the user equipment. This one could be the phone, could be the laptops, and then you are using these user equipments to be able to access the internet resources. So I've mentioned that many times what we see are the base station, the towers all over, everywhere. And these towers, we have the antennas, which are, you've mentioned the radio signals. So you are using the mobile data to access the resources, then definitely you are being served by your nearest tower. So these cell towers, they normally have the area of coverage. That's why you see after some distance, you will find that there is another tower because they have limited coverage. We can't just have one tower in Nairobi. It will not be able to cover all parts of Nairobi. That's why when you move around, maybe after a few kilometers, you find there is a new tower. Another few kilometers, you find there is a tower. And even for the Wi-Fi APs, you find that every home, every house in a building, they have their own Wi-Fi AP. And this Wi-Fi AP is connected to some service provider networks that help them to access the internet. So today we may not be able to cover much about the service provider network because it's kind of complicated. With the 1 hour period, we may just mention it the way we've done on this slide to let you know that yes, we have the mobile towers, we have the Wi-Fi APs in your homes, and these Wi-Fi APs and the base stations or the towers, they are connecting to some network, the service provider network. This one can be Safaricom, can be Airtel, can be Telcom. And on this service provider network, we have the routers, the switches, we have the firewalls for security, we have things like the hardware servers, because we have many equipment that need to be able to work together to ensure that we have access to the internet, we are protected, we can access the different services over the internet. So this is just an overview of how we are able to bring all these things together and ensure that you as a consumer, you are able to access the internet or access different services. The same service provider network is able to provide you access to the internet and also access to the local services. For example, for this business, they may need to be able to communicate. An employee who is located here needs to be able to call an employee in this office using their mobile setup. So you see, this one is not going to the internet, but it's just local communication between the business HQ and the business branch. So whether it's the internet access, whether it is the mobile calls, they are all going through the service provider networks. The calls, they have their own equipment, so we'll have separate equipment that are able to handle calls. We have the controllers like the base station controllers, we have radio network controller, we have many other equipment that we can look at them in our next, maybe in the upcoming sessions. But for today, let me just leave it there. Is there any question on this? Just a quick overview of the service provider networks. Any question before we move to the next slide? Any question from the... Okay, we'll move to the next slide then. So the next slide, remember this one has just given us an overview of the service provider networks. So we try to open this black box, the service provider networks, and see what is inside that black box of the service provider networks. So on the next slide, you can see that you have your enterprise customers. This one could be banks, could be schools. I know in your school MMU you have some routers installed there, either by Airtel, by Telcom, by Liquid Telecom, by Safaricom, which are giving you internet access. So those are what I'm calling the enterprise customers. Then we have the base station now. These are for the mobile access. So this mobile base station, they are connecting to some transmission network. So we have a transmission network here. This transmission network is also connecting to the core network, the core equipments. For the transmission network, we have different types. We can be having the IP, we can be having the WDM, we also have microwave. We have outdated technologies like the frame relay, the E1s, SDH. Those ones, they could be used in some institutions, but they have already, many of them, they have been decommissioned. But currently we have these three types of transmission networks. We have IP, we have the WDM, we have microwave. This one we can cover them later in detail. But we need some kind of transmission network. Remember, you have a site located in Kisii. This site, there is a tower somewhere in Kisii. This tower need to be connected to the internet, or it need to be connected to some other user or some other equipment which is in Nairobi. So that is where the transmission network comes in. So you will have routers or switches or different types of equipment. For example, for the WDM, you can have the OTNs and many other different types of the WDM equipments. The WDM stands for dense wavelength division multiplexing. This provides higher capacity. So whenever we require higher capacity, like 100G links or 400G, nowadays we have even 800G capacities, we always go for the DWDM. IP, of course, IP, the internet protocol. Then microwave, for the microwave we are using the radio signals, and we have the dishes. You have a dish, you find a line of sight, and then you are able to transmit some signals from point A to point B through that line of sight. So this is the transmission network being used to ensure that we have end-to-end connectivity between different regions, between different sites located in very remote regions. You can be having a site in Marsabit, you have a site in Kwale, you have a site in Rongo, Kisii. All those sites need to be connected through some kind of transmission network. So that is where we have the routers and the switches and the firewalls and many other equipments that come in to ensure that we have this end-to-end connection. And then the core network now, the core network, remember, this is like our gateway to the internet. So in the core network, we will have some special equipment. We can have the 4G equipment. We have different access technologies when it comes to the mobile networks. We'll be looking at them in the next slide. You will have some, we call them the intelligent network. Remember, when you are purchasing the airtime for your mobile, you need some equipment to purchase that. Once you've done that, you need some equipment to monitor, or this user has already exhausted their internet, their package. We need to disconnect them from the internet, or this user. So there are some intelligent network that is also part of the core network that will come in to ensure that everything is automated and can work without even manual intervention from the engineers. So this one could be managed also by network engineers, but we have different roles that comes in to manage all these service provider networks. And once you are now connected to the core network, you also need to access to the internet. This is where we are now bringing in the subsea cables. So the subsea cables connecting, maybe let me just expand this. I will end the show. Then I can expand this so that we make it clear. Remember, you are accessing some international websites, you are accessing some services or internet services that are not located in Kenya, maybe like TikTok, Facebook, which you need maybe to go all the way to US or UK for you to be able to access those kind of services. So that's where the subsea cables are coming in. And you can see this is how like Africa is connected to different subsea cables. We have Easy, we have Seacom, and many others. So these are just some areas that you need to have an understanding when you are preparing to be a network engineer. And then you will have access to the internet. Do we have any question? Question from the audience? Okay, when we look at the mobile networks, so the mobile networks, you know, technology is evolving very fast. What you used to do maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago may be obsolete. You need to adopt the new technologies. So when we look at the evolution of the radio access technologies or the mobile networks, you can see that in 1980s we had the 1G. That one, even I don't have an idea what the hell it is. Then we have the 2G, which we are calling the GSM. You have the UMTS 3G. And then in 2010, we have the 4G LTE. In 2020, we are now working on 5G, the new radio. And even we are not yet there. We are already working on 6G as we talk right now. So you can see that technology is evolving very fast. And as a telecommunication engineer or an engineer in any other domain, you always have to keep up with the technology. They move to 3G, you need to be able to understand 3G. They move to 4G, you need to be able to understand 4G and even start understanding 5G technology, 6G technology. So you are always learning and improving your skills, or less you may be kicked out, because if you can't adopt the new technology, definitely all the service providers are moving with technology. You see, like countries like UK, they have already switched off their 2G and 3G, and they are now purely remaining with 4G, 5G, and moving to 6G. But in Kenya, of course, we cannot switch off 2G and 3G. Anyone who can tell us why we cannot switch off 2G and 3G as of now? Anyone?
Mulika mwizi.
Anyone apart from that response from James? Why can't we switch off 2G and 3G? Yes, Richard.
Okay, I think we can't switch them because we still have so many users with mobile phones which just support 2G and maybe 3G. Yeah.
Okay, another question I will ask: when you are making a call, which technology do you think you are using to make the call? When you are making the normal call, a phone call. Yes, Aqua.
3G.
Why 3G?
I don't know. I always see my mobile phone just switch to 3G whenever I'm on a call.
Okay, of course, if you have 2G coverage, I mean, if you have 3G coverage, it will definitely pick 3G. But if you don't have 2G, I mean, if you don't have 3G, some areas up to now they don't have 3G or 4G coverage. They only have 2G. So definitely 2G was primarily used for calls. And you can see even in terms of the capacities, 2G only supported 50 kbps. 50 kbps for now, you can't even. Okay, of course, it had text. That's where we started texting and doing all those mobile texts. But you can see the capacity 50 kbps. That is so small for majority of the application that we have right now. And then we have 3G 21 Mbps. And you can also see the latency. The latency has reduced to 100 milliseconds. Then we have now 4G. 4G at least we have 100 Mbps. So that's why you can see that we are now doing mobility. I mean the latency of 10 milliseconds. So we can access many of the applications on the internet. We can live stream. We can do many things using the 4G, which we call the long-term evolution LTE. Then now 5G comes in. You see the capacity data rates. You can do 20 gigabits per second, which many of us actually don't need because we are served TikTok and Facebook, YouTube. You don't need that much of data rate. You can still do with the normal 4G data. Then we have the 6G coming in. You can see that we will have data rates of 1 terabits per second. So as James and Sakwa have mentioned, of course, I mean Richard, the main reason why we cannot switch off 2G and 3G, it's because majority of our population is still using the Mulika Mwizi phone. Is it Mulika Mwizi or it's Mulika? I don't know the real term. But those are the kind of phone that they are using. So if you are to switch off 2G and 3G, they may not be able to make the calls. They may not be able to even browse using these two technologies. But for UK, majority of the population already has those high-end phones, iPhone or these big new phones that are in the market. So they are okay. They can switch off 2G and 3G and they can even make calls. They can make the VoLTE calls on 4G. So they don't need 2G and 3G anymore. And why do we need 5G? Anyone who can, why do we need 5G and 6G? I know we have read about 5G and 6G. Why do we need these new technologies? Why don't we just stick to 4G? Anyone? Yes, James or Sakwa? Yes, Sakwa.
Sakwa to go first.
Okay.
Okay, so I think it's because 5G comes with reduced latency and an increased bandwidth compared to the 4G.
Okay, James.
In my thinking, I think at this moment we are in period of evolution. We have new technologies emerging like big data, AI. We have Internet of Things. Now it's Internet of Everything. We have things like autonomous driving. And with these evolutions, we need high capacity to support this. We also have things like augmented reality. This requires, this is real time, requires really high bandwidth and really stable network. So I think with the evolution of technologies, it poses high demand on the network resources.
thank you. I think you are both right. With the new technologies coming in, the IoT, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, the autonomous vehicles, and many, many other new technology, they require very high data rates. They require very low latencies. You can see that with 5G, we are doing a latency of 1 millisecond. And if you are moving, let me say, for example, you are using a flight from one place to another, the mobility, it can support a mobility of 500 kilometers per hour. So it doesn't matter the speed you are moving at, you can still be able to be served by 5G and 6G. You can see that 6G will have microseconds of latency. So with the new technologies, they have special requirements that requires the technology like 5G radio and 6G that will come in and support. I'll move quickly to the role of network engineers. This is just not all, but we as network engineers, we design, build, and integrate networks. So it could be a service provider networks like for Safaricom, Airtel, Telcom, or any other service provider, or it could be a network for a bank. It could be a network for an office. You see, there are technicians who works as network engineers, and they manage the networks for these small offices, small businesses. So their primary work is to design, to build, and integrate networks. Once we have built this network, we need to do monitoring and reporting. Remember, there are issues that come up when you've built the network, so you need to do real-time monitoring and reporting of how the network is performing. And from this network monitoring, you need to also do network optimizations. We are always working to improve. For example, when you have call drops, you are making a call and there is a call drop, or you are browsing and then you are not able to, maybe there is slow access or there is some problem that you are experiencing, the challenges that you have mentioned when we started. So we need to do some optimizations on this network to ensure that we improve the customer experience. It's always about the customer experience. If the customer experience is poor, you won't have these customers purchasing your services. So we always do network optimization. And then troubleshooting network failures. This is a daily thing. There is always failures in the network. There are fiber cuts, there are devices going offline, there are power issues. So you always on toes to try and troubleshoot these network issues that are reported from the NOC monitoring team. And another important aspect is once you've set up a network, you need to do maintenance for this network hardware and equipment. You need to do software upgrade. You need to do hardware upgrade for these networks, and also new service deployment. So the network is always growing. We always have new sites coming in. We always have new customers coming in. So we are always deploying new services for these enterprise customers, or even the mobile sites. There are always new services to be deployed on the network. Another important role as a network engineer is that we are always documenting network updates, configuration changes, and technical support and modification. So whenever you do something on the network, we always have to document it somewhere so that it's easy to refer to when you want to make any reference in future. Of course, there are many other roles or many other functions of a network engineer which I haven't mentioned, but yeah, we can dive deep into them in our next episodes. Which skills do you require as a network engineer? The first thing is that as a network engineer, you need to have deep understanding of networking protocols. Networking protocols, of course, it's not just about the IP. It's you see, there are other engineering roles and they use different protocols in the networking world. So this one I'm just mentioning in my field, the protocol that you may need to understand. So we have the TCP/IP model, we have the routing protocols like BGP, OSPF, ISIS, we have subnetting, how you will divide the IP addresses, We have the virtual local area networks and other technologies like MPLS. So this one you need to understand. And then something that we always pay attention to nowadays is network security. You always have to understand the best practices so that you are able to protect the network. Troubleshooting, this one you can never run away from it. You need to be able to resolve complex network issues quickly and restore services whenever there are issues in the network. So this is a skill, troubleshooting, it's a skill that you can never lack as a network engineer. You need to be able to do network design and be able to use the tools. So there are different network architectures you need to be able to design, and also you need to be able to use the necessary tools that you can use for the network design. Network automation, this is a very important skill. Nowadays, the network is growing very fast. You cannot continue to configure them as we used to do or as we're doing right now, like CLI one by one. No, you need to do some network automation. Virtualization, we are moving to the cloud, so you need to have a good understanding of virtualization technologies and how they apply to network infrastructure. Cloud computing, again, we are moving to the cloud, so you need to have some understanding of common cloud-based network services like AWS, Azure, or the Google Cloud Platform. Hardware knowledge, we are always dealing with routers, switches, firewalls, and many other different devices. So you need to have knowledge of these hardware devices. You need to understand, like, how do I know this port? How do I know this card on this switch? How do I know this type, like different types of hardware? You need to be able to understand the different parts and their functionalities so that you are managing something that you know, something that if it fails to operate, you are able to intervene and maybe replace some parts or even swap or even, I mean, do the hardware upgrade, add some other equipments or new hardwares on the existing ones. Monitoring tools, we are always monitoring the network, so you need to be able to use the network monitoring tools, and this one, it's always good when you know or when you have the knowledge of multi-vendor monitoring tools. So Huawei have their own monitoring tools, Nokia have their own monitoring tools, Cisco, they have their own monitoring tools. You need to have an understanding of how these tools are used to monitor the network and identify the potential issues. Then you also need to be proficient in configuring these devices, and this one also should be from different vendors. So we have Juniper, we have Nokia, we have Cisco, we have Huawei, we have MikroTik, all those different vendors, they are in the network. There is no network that have only one vendor. No, I've never seen that in all of my career. All these different vendors, they have the equipments, especially in the service provider network. If you are working in a small office, definitely you may have just one router and one switch from Cisco. That is it. But the kind of the network that we deal with on the service provider, it has all these different vendors. And if you have the knowledge to configure and troubleshoot, you see, you have an upper hand over someone who doesn't have knowledge on different vendors. Rushing through it. Some soft skills that you need: communication. We are not working alone. We are working with people. We are working with vendors. We are working with different stakeholders. So you need to be able to communicate and explain the technical concepts to non-technical stakeholders and even the technical ones. So you should be able to express yourself using the technical concepts and be able to convince or even be able to make the people you're explaining these things to understand. So communication is always a key. Problem solving, we are always dealing with problems in the network. That is our work. For me, I always see ourselves like the doctors also. You see a doctor, a patient comes with a different disease, tomorrow comes with a different kind of disease. We are almost similar to the doctors. There are so many problems that are escalated to us, and you need to be able to find the solution in time. So you need to think quickly and give a solution to the complex network issues that are reported to you. Analytical skills, you need to be able to interpret network data and identify the trends, be able to identify any issues. Time management, we are always trying to meet deadlines. So you need to be able to manage your time properly so that you are able to meet the deadlines. So time management is always a key. Sorry for those one who came late, but yeah, we need to improve on our time management. Teamwork, have mentioned that we are not working alone. We are working with different teams. We are always working with our colleagues from other different departments. So you always have to be able to collaborate with them and be able to deliver services smoothly. Project management skills, there are projects going on in the network. So you need to have these skills to be able to deliver the projects on time. Attention to detail, this is something that you can never lack. There are some issues that will be escalated and you really need to dig deep into those details for you to be able to fix them. You need to continue learning and adapt to the new technologies. So that's those quick learning. You need to learn quickly. And then presentation and reporting skills. We are always making reports about the network. So you need to be able to, that PPT or that Microsoft tools that you can use to make reports. We are always using them. And then leadership skills. At some point, you are put in charge of some people, some projects. You need to have those leadership skills to be able to deliver. The potential career path in network engineering. So we have the cloud networking engineer, we have data center engineer, we have the network manager. All these are different roles that you can pick and decide to follow when you are deciding which path you need to take in network engineering. I'll not go into details, a story for another day. The future of networking. So the network, we've mentioned that the network is evolving very fast. We need to adapt to the new technologies. We need to learn the new technologies. We need to deploy the new technologies. I'm sure some of us, our phones support 5G and you are able to use 5G and you see the speeds, yeah, and you smile. So we need to adopt the new technologies. Network automation, I've mentioned that we are always trying to automate the network using tools like Python, Terraform, and many other tools that can help us to make work easy. Network security, a very important thing that we always have to pay attention to. I've mentioned technologies like 5G. We have software-defined networks. We have the SD-WANs. Cybersecurity, also a hot topic. Cloud networking, we have the AI. I've mentioned that some of the functions of AI, when you are purchasing the mobile data, when you are doing the transactions, there is always an aspect of artificial intelligence in it. And then 6G. So these are some of the new technology that are coming in, or the trends, the new trends in networking. I think that should be the end of my slides. And now I will open the floor for any questions. I know we are past 9, but yeah, we can have some discussion. We can have some questions coming in, and then we can end our session. Richard, back to you. You can coordinate the questions.
Yes. Thank you, Martin, for the session, and maybe we can jump right into the question session. And I can see one question in the in-call messages, and is asking, is there a real difference between a telecommunication engineer and a network engineer? What roles do telecom? I think anauliza, what roles do telecom engineers do? Also, are you the same people who receive customer care calls? Martin, it's a question in the in-call messages. Maybe you can respond to that.
Telecommunication is wide. From what I understand, is telecommunication is wide. In this telecommunication field, we have electrical engineers, we have the power engineers. So it's a very wide field. From my understanding, is a network engineer is just one role in telecommunication engineering, because you see there are people who are climbing these towers, who are managing. You see, for me, I don't know how to manage those equipments you see on the towers. I don't know how to manage the base stations, and you see that is still part of the telecommunication. So it's a very wide domain, and network engineering is just one of those roles that are fall under telecommunication engineering. And when you talk about the customer care calls, every office they have their own customer care officers. So for us, we don't deal with the customer care calls. There are people who are mandated with that role of dealing with customer care calls. If there is anything that needs to be addressed by us, it will be escalated from customer care to us so that we can fix the issue. For us, we only deal with the technical aspect. Yes, next question. I hope I've answered your question. Certification for network engineering.
So
Yes. Yes, Richard. So for certification for network engineering, of course, there are many certifications
oh,
in this domain. We have things to do with, if you want to be an IP engineer, of course, you will have to do certifications like HCIS, CCNA. You will have to do certification like CCNP, CCIE. Also, Juniper have their own, Nokia have their own, NRS. So we have different certifications for different roles in network engineering. If you want to be a DWDM engineer, if you want to be a microwave engineer, there are different certifications that you can take so that you are able to understand the basic working principles of these domains. So to mean, if you are a telecom student, you can still become a network engineer. Yes, of course, why not? I don't think there is a specific role called telecom engineer. Anyone who can, from the audience, maybe you can help me to to respond to this. But from my understanding is network engineer and telecom. Yeah, if you are a telecom student, you can become a network engineer. Yes, 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 yes. Any other questions?
Martin, I would like to ask, there's something I'm curious about, and that's 5G. I'd
Yes.
like to know if the percentage of the 5G rollout in the country, is it that much, or if not, what are some of the deployment challenges that the guys in telecommunication and networking have been facing to deploy 5G, especially with the infrastructure?
James can respond to that. James Majani, or anyone from the audience who can respond to that. We still have James. Okay, in terms of coverage, I cannot give an exact number, like how 5%, 10%, no. But again, all these service providers are working to deploy the new 5G technology. Safaricom, Airtel, Liquid, they are all working to deploy the new technology 5G. I can't give the percentage in terms of coverage, how many cities, how many sites they have, but the biggest challenge has been the cost. You see, many of the old equipments, they may not be able to support 5G. So if you are bringing in the new technology, there is a lot of changes that you need to do. And many of them, if you've studied 5G, you realize that we have the non-standalone and the standalone. So many of them, they are currently deploying the non-standalone technology, which, okay, for me, I normally call it the fake 5G. It's 5G, yes, you will have the you will have the data speeds the high data speeds, but it's not the standalone solution that you now have to purely run on 5G from your mobile equipment to the internet. So one of the challenges is the existing hardware or the existing software does not support 5G. So they need uh, to do upgrades to acquire new equipments, and you know that one always comes at a cost. And then you see many times 5G has been, how do I put it? Like when you are deploying 5G in terms of coverage, you need to have many sites. Like for you to improve the coverage, you know the frequencies used by 5G, are they the higher or the low? I need to check on that. But again, you need to have so many new towers deployed in the network for you to be able to have the 5G technology working okay. So those are just some of the challenges. Majority, the hardware, the software does not support. And again, you need to acquire the new hardwares for this 5G, which comes at a cost which is not cheap, and many other small challenges that, of course, the user equipment. User equipment, they don't support 5G. If we were to check maybe in this meeting how many phones support 5G, you will find that we have very little. So why will you deploy a technology that even the users themselves, the equipments don't support 5G? I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, that's great. I was almost forgetting.
Yes.
I also have another question, but this not just for me. I think I've seen my team in this chat, the electrical and telecommunication group, majorly the third years and fourth years.
Yes.
I just like to ask, you are a network engineer at Nokia. Do they provide the opportunities for students, especially attachment opportunities? Not only Nokia, you mentioned Huawei or Safaricom. Do they have open attachment opportunities, especially the ones running from June, maybe to August or September? And what are the requirements for one to apply?
Okay. Many of these companies, of course, they have these attachment or internships recruitment going on every year. Uh, like Huawei, they have the graduate trainee program, which still accommodates those ones, especially who are in fourth year and even third year. You can always uh, apply for them. Safaricom, they also have their own. I may not be sure whether they are now recruiting or whether they now have the open positions unless I check, but majority of them, they do have these opportunities. You just need to be active and sometimes even just following them on their social media platform, because when they are open opportunities, they normally share openly on these LinkedIn or even on any other social platform that they are. And if you are lucky to apply, of course, you need to have the basic understanding. You need to have some kind of, sometimes they even go and check the certifications. Maybe if you have done some kind of certifications, you see, you have a good understanding of the technology, so you have an upper hand to be picked by them. So you need to, of course, have the necessary knowledge in this field. You need to have some basic understanding of these technologies. You need to be able to, for example, if you have access to these platforms like the packet tracer, the ENSP, you can do some practice on your own, because you see sometimes, yes, they call it internship or attachment, but again, they will not start teaching you from scratch. You need to have some basic understanding of these things. And maybe I need at this time I need to mention that one thing that maybe we haven't mentioned is I've been an instructor. An instructor or a trainer or a mentor in other terms. And we have our platform. I call it the Life Technologies, where we have been doing some training and trying to bridge the gap between the knowledge that you are coming out with from the university and the knowledge that we have out here. So you can check Life Technologies. We have a YouTube channel, we have a website, very active also on LinkedIn. You can pick some knowledge from there, especially on how to manage these service provider networks, how you can configure these protocols, and many, many other things that will be coming up with the Life Technologies. Does anyone have something to add from my response? Yes, yes, Richard.
Yes, yeah, from your response, maybe just to support what you are saying, I've been attending the trainings and they are quite impactful. That is in terms of now the practical bit of now what we are talking about today, the configuration of the different hardware devices that we have. So it's a good opportunity for university students, mostly those who are interested in this field. Yeah.
Any other question? Oh, I saw there was a question on chat. Would you mind sharing how it pays? According to companies of or years of experience, is it hard for a young engineer to be a senior engineer despite being? It's not hard. It takes many times it's about you, the time that you put in, the practice that you put in. For you to be, of course, a senior engineer, there is a lot of input that you need to put in from your end. It's not just about it's not about the years of experience actually. You can have 1 year of experience, but you practice these things, you are able to uh, do the certifications and get to understand how these things works. So you end up understanding all these technologies, and with time you gradually become a senior engineer. So it's not hard, it's very easy. It all depends on yourself, the time you put in, the energy you put in, the amount of hours you study. It's, as I've mentioned, there is always the new technologies. Even me myself, I study almost every day. Every weekend, I'm always having something new to study, something new to practice, and that's how you become a senior engineer. So it's possible. What did you call? Okay, let me just put. And of course, currently we are having HCIA training. If you are interested in HCIA training, of course, that one is paid for. And we are just covering mainly the basic principles of networking, routing, and switching. If you are interested, you can reach out to me, and yeah, we can see how we can go about it. Question as we close. Think some few minutes, and then we'll be able to Ida, you haven't introduced yourself to the team. Your microphone had issues. I see. It's now your time to.
Hello, I don't know if now it's
Yes,
better.
yes,
Can
yes,
you hear
yes.
me
Now
better?
it's clear.
Oh, yeah, that's great. My name is Aida Boy, and I am a project manager at one of at a telecommunication company. So our company works for Nokia in a way. We do the physical installation at sites uh for like service providers like Safaricom or Airtel and others. So we do the physical installation on site. That's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, you can share some insights also. There were so many questions. Maybe any
Yeah.
advice you can.
I think what I can say when I studied in Kenyatta University with telecommunications and IT. When I was doing that and I was looking for attachments, at the time I only knew of Airtel, Safaricom. I didn't even know I didn't know I could look for internship or attachment in like Nokia or even any other company. So now I can tell you like there are some other companies that you can look for attachment. Like apart from those particular ones, we have um like like our companies are like called like suppliers. So we had Martin had mentioned Innovis, for example. For me, I work for Omni Ventures Limited. There are others called Tesla Limited. Others are called other one. Okay, those are just examples of companies that work in the telecommunication industry as well, which you can gain experience in physical installation of sites. So now we have mostly covered you'll find like in the network engineering space, mostly you'll do configurations, maybe small router installations. I'm not sure if Martin does router installations himself, but but for like companies like ours, so people do the physical installation of the router on site, or you see the BTS sites that Martin was talking about, the many sites that you find when you walk around. We do the antenna installation ourselves. We do the whole BTS. We do the installation. We do small configurations on site. That is the other part of the telecommunication that sometimes you might not be exposed to when you're in school. So yeah, as Martin had mentioned, stay active on LinkedIn and follow as many companies as possible. I've mentioned just a few, but you can find so many other companies that you can follow and see the various things that they do and how you're able to maybe apply to. And you see, like these smaller companies are easier to get. They're not easy per se, but they're easier if you compare it to like maybe Huawei and Nokia and all that, where you obviously most people are applying to. So knowing these other smaller companies, you can start there and maybe build your way to like when you start on this level of knowing because I know even Martin, like I think probably I don't know if he did started at the field level where you're doing the installation yourself, and that way you're able to get a better understanding of what you're doing all the way from the field level to the core level, where you're not seeing the routers yourself. So that is what I would say. Let me see if there's any other question that
Thank
I
you.
wanted to. Yeah.
Thank you, Ida. I think you've mentioned a very important thing that don't just focus on the two, three. There are very few big ISPs around, but there are so many other providers that you can consider for your internships or attachments. So you need to be out there and get the information, get to know about them, and try applying because, as it has mentioned, everyone is always trying to do the attachment or internships in these big companies. Everyone is always, it's always their dream attachment or internship company. So sometimes they forget about the small ones. And now for you, you can go with that. You can try to find around these small company. There are so many, of course. There are so many that are offering these services. And even me, when I was in campus, of course, that's when I did my internship. And it was also about the router installation, configurations, and then before I joined the Huawei graduate trainee after my master's program. But again, it's sometimes you just need to find somewhere you can start from. Once you start from that small company and you are ambitious, you are able to learn the new technologies and the opportunities, you will eventually grow and find yourself in these big companies, the Huawei, Nokia, Safaricom, Airtel. So don't limit your options to just these big companies. No, no, no. You can diversify and follow these small companies that are everywhere, and then you get somewhere to start from. That was a very good point to add. Any other question as we close? Richard, I saw some question on the chat. What software do you use to configure those things? Can I download them? Which things? Which things are you talking about? It's okay. The routers, of course, we have simulation softwares. We have ENSP from Huawei. We have some other platforms from Cisco. We have the packet tracer, which are open source. They are available. You can download them from the internet, and you can do your practice from them. Of course, you can ping me on LinkedIn, or you can get my number from Richard, and then we can engage and see how we can support each other. Also, how important is the GPA or whatever I graduate with? Uh, Let me see who can respond to this. There was who?
Okay, let me say in the meantime, as you get
Yes.
someone.
Okay.
Uh, okay, the only place I have seen my GPA or what I got in campus being asked was when I was trying to apply for masters. But when I was applying for a job, I think the most important thing that stands out usually is what other certifications you have done. But if, for example, you have just completed campus, maybe something to do with something like a project would stand out more than a GPA would stand out. But I'm not saying that you get a small GPA. You try and get first class, but um, that is not the most. That is not the biggest thing that a company would look like, but would look for or look at. But yeah, that's what I would say. That is my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, you don't just I think you are in campus, and you also have some ambitions. Maybe you are planning to do your master's, you are planning to do your PhD, or sometimes, of course, some of the organizations they will check. They will still check your GPA when you are applying that job. They will tell you to put the GPA value, and maybe they use it to filter, and then they now come up with those one who can now be interviewed. So it's always good. Of course, you need to work on GPA. Let's not say that you just get out with anything from campus with 1 point something. No, no, no. You need to work on your GPA. They say as much as the papers or the GPA may not matter, but you need to have it. It's like I don't know the right word to use, but my input will be as much as they may not ask, you still need to have those papers. Someday you may be asked, some days you may not be asked, but it's good to have them. It's good to have that good GPA on your paper. Any other question? Richard, I think you should take over, and I think we should be closing the session, but you can take over from your end. I think from my end, I've responded to all the questions on the chat.
Yes, Martin. So thank you for the session. And maybe when people are registering for this webinar, there were some questions that they dropped via a form. Maybe I can check on one question here, which is interesting. And the question is, I'm currently pursuing CCNA 1 course, but I'm developing interest in encryption concepts. Is cryptanalysis key in networking so that I can conglomerate the two? We have that question.
Using very big terms, Bana. Yeah.
Eh, eh. So that Kokoge, which can you read that word again? Let me check my dictionary.
Okay. Let me repeat it. I'm
Yes.
currently pursuing CCNA 1 course, but I'm developing interest in encryption concepts. Is cryptanalysis key in networking so that I can conglomerate the two?
Okay. James, you want to answer or I proceed?
No, proceed, proceed.
Okay, you see, encryption comes in when we are talking about network security, which is also a very important aspect in networking. So it's good he can pick up with encryption and all those networking things. I mean, of course, before you do the network security, you need to also have an understanding of networking. So it's a good thing, network security, you can consider that. Richard?
Okay, thank you, yeah. I think all the other questions which I can see in the form, we have addressed them here. And maybe in case someone now needs to reach you directly, I think they can first of all reach out to me so that I connect them with you.
Okay.
So at this juncture now, there being now no questions, or is there any other question?
Checking from
Okay,
the chat, no other question.
okay. There being no other questions now, on behalf of everyone here, I would like now to extend our deepest gratitude to you, Martin Indeche, and the guests of whom you have now led this session with, for now leading today's insightful webinar that is on the topic network engineering and data communication. At least now you have provided the clear explanation, and now what we can say is that it has been of immense value to us, and we appreciate your time and effort you dedicated to sharing your experiences and wisdom with us all. And we hope that this is something that we can make it continuous, maybe after some time after we assess the participants, we can know maybe we can dive deep into a particular topic of interest. We are incredibly grateful for your generosity in sharing your knowledge and for being such a wonderful guide throughout the session. So thank you once again, Martin and your team, for making this event a success and inspiring us to explore new frontiers in the networking and communication technology. Yes. So maybe are there any comments from the audience? Any comments?
Mark, this has been a great session. I hope you continue organizing this as MUKESA. I would like to have another series of webinars with Indechi and team.
Yes, thank you. This is something we can make it now a continuous thing so that we can now reach our skills and now get to interact with this industry of professionals time to time. Yes. Yeah, thank you. I would like to mention that we have a representative from Meru University, that is Purity Kerubo. I think they also have electrical and telecom engineering at Meru. So thank you for joining, and I hope now you will spread the good word to the classmates at Meru University. So thank you. for representing them. Yeah.
Forward also to meet the comrades from Meru University, maybe in a future session. We can also plan for that. And yeah, as majority of you have mentioned, we are available. We just need to do proper planning, and then we can have multiple sessions on different topics so that we get to dive deeper into how these things work. Today it was a crash course, so nothing much to explain because of time, but yeah, we can have those other sessions once we plan and align accordingly.
Yes, thank you. So at this juncture, I believe time is far much gone, but I thank you all for being patient and making it through to this time. So thank you, Martin and the team. We can call it a night, or yeah, we can call it a night, and we will plan for other sessions, and